Josh Okogie, you will be missed, but
don't be a dick. We got Nick. Breaking news!
The sexy sax is being played because Nick Richards is heading to the Valley. Breaking news for your Phoenix Suns. Nick Richards, the man who we've been talking about for quite some time, will be wearing purple and orange. We're going to give you instant reactions. We're going to break down the deal. Where do the Phoenix Suns go next? It's Eric, Steven, Espo, Noah behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. Let's party. Woo! They did something. You know how much it takes to get Espo up out of his seats these days? Michael, Cara, Brendan, Gilbert, Bone, everybody who's in the chat, drop a like button for your new look Phoenix Suns. Let's settle on in. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you're new around here, we do this every single day. Steven, the Phoenix Suns have landed their, presumably, starting center in Nick Richards in exchange for Josh Okogie. 3 second-round picks coming to Phoenix with Nick Richards is 1 second-round pick. So essentially, you're swapping for 2. How are you feeling after the trade that we've talked about so much finally went down?
It felt like we've been preparing for it for a while, honestly. Like, it felt like it was just baked into the season happening for this team at some point. Coming to the season with the center group that they had, you see the inherent issues that essentially plague this team in multiple stretches against multiple different styles of opponents. I mean, it just felt like it was inevitable, quite honestly. So it's good to finally be here, but the team is in the situation they're in. Now you're eliminating excuses and reasons. It's time to get back to work.
And Espo, we've mentioned before, a singular trade's not going to fix the Phoenix Suns, but it's certainly going to help. Let's attack this like we haven't talked about this consistently. Now that it's a reality, what is it about Nick Richards, Espo, that you see helping the Phoenix Suns so much?
Well, it's twofold. And the one I want to get to first is, yeah, it's one move, but I think it can help the locker room. Because I had a friend of mine in media who hadn't been in the Suns locker room this year, who was in Atlanta yesterday, and messaged me, went in the Suns locker room post game, and man, the vibes in there were weird. I know it was a tough loss, but this is strange, right? I think one thing this does is give some excitement, gives a burst of energy. Just like if you change a coach or anything that you do, it can reinvigorate a locker room just because you're bringing in a new face and somebody at a position where they've obviously struggled at this year. So I think that's the first benefit, right? Is just a little bit of the mental side of it. And it may not make sense because it's not like Nick Richards is a 7-time All-Star and you just change the NBA with this. But the little things mentally can change a lot. And I think this locker room needed some kind of change to start with.
Yeah, I don't know if last night was a breaking point. I mean, it sure felt like it when you just saw them get manhandled on the boards, not just in a physical sense, but also in an effort sense. But it does feel like this is something that if you look at the last couple of games, even when the Suns were winning, the lack of just a big body and size, you know, separate from what that actually brings as far as value on the court, was so missed that it was bleeding into the other things that usually that would not affect. So I think that first point honestly might be the most potent solution for the Suns, because as great as the actual size and athleticism of Richards will be, the hope and the confidence that in theory it could inspire should hopefully cascade all the way down this roster.
Well, look, you need serviceable right now at that position, and it's not fair to ask Oso Ighodaro to be that guy for 48 minutes or even for 30 of those 48, and Plumlee, we know who he is, and that's not a knock on him. He is who he is at this point of his career. Nick Richards comes in. If he can be that rim rolling big that does the little things, get some boards for you and brings energy, that's enough to swing that from a complete net negative at that position to potentially a toss-up against opponents, right? And as much as you'd want a net win at that position from where you've been, and I believe it was Darth Void, our friend over at Bright Side the Sun, that looked it up, and the Suns have like 3 games in their last 8 where they've given up 20 offensive rebounds or more.
Man.
Like, just being a wash at that position in most matchups is going to be a win for this team. And I think that's the simple reality of it, is he's not going to be a guy that's constantly played off the floor or his energy questioned, right? Sure, is he the guy that you think would be a starting center for all other 29 teams? No, but he at least brings a stability to that rotation you haven't had, right, Steven?
Yeah, he's not a liability. And I think that having someone that's just quite literally not a liability, that also gives you a plus in size and youthfulness and athleticism, checks off as many boxes as the Suns can hope to check off in a trade without gutting any of their like major assets. Major assets being Bradley Beal, 2031 first round pick. Being able to navigate those transaction waters with the second tax apron restraints and everything and get somebody that can help add a spark to your group is very important. I feel like their center group is as important as any other position on the roster right now, especially if they can add one of those blue-collar boys, which I feel like Nick Richards will immediately become for this team. Those are things that are valuable past the box score. Now, if we're talking about the box score, having another center that can finish above the rim even more frequently than Oso Ighodaro, that can finish on better accuracy in terms of efficiency at the rim than any of the centers on the roster right now, is going to show that it has a lot of value for this team. Team that's already top 10 in points per possession, that's going to go up incrementally when he's the person that's receiving a lot of these passes.
Yeah. Somehow you got better and saved money too, which is crazy in and of it.
Yeah.
There are
as well.
A lot of great questions in the chat. We're going to get to a lot of them. What happens to Nurkic? Going to miss J.O. But I think the one I want to talk about right now is Nick Richards a needle mover? Right? And my answer is, for most teams in most situations, no. He's a good player. He's a useful player who can be a part of a winning team, right? Mm-hmm. I think he definitely has a skill set that does not just thrive on teams like the Charlotte Hornets of the world.
Yeah.
But in this specific situation, for this team and their like very unique needs, there's not another team in the league that's sitting in the same situation as the Phoenix Suns as far as the amount of talent on the scoring end that you have, especially shooting, the lack of athleticism, the lack of size in the middle, not because you don't have the bodies. You already have 3, now 4 centers on the roster with Oso, Plumlee, Nurkic, and now Richards, but just didn't have anybody from those 3 that could be that big, that can make their presence felt, right? So in this context, Espo, I don't know if it's crazy to consider Nick Richards at least a potential needle mover.
Okay, he's not a ceiling raiser, right? He's a floor raiser. That means, okay, that position can't be as bad as it's been. You've now raised that floor. And what you do when you have a floor raising move is you make it very clear. You are not in a rebuilding phase. You are not blowing this up. You're looking to build for the now still. And I think that that's another signal that this sends, not only to the guys on the roster, but to the rest of the league. We're not having a fire sale here. We're going to try to get better. We're raising that floor. And I think that means that, Jimmy Butler's still in the picture. You're going to be looking at other moves. Is there some way you can offload a Nurk and get anything back? You're still in it to try to win this year, is what I think the needle mover is here. And that's what this deal says to the rest of the league. Does it change their fortunes completely? Absolutely not. But it gives them stability and energy. Two things that they've been lacking over the last 3 weeks that you hope is part of the bigger solution.
Steven, there are some comparisons in the chat to Daniel Gafford, right? A center who was athletic, who gave Dallas a different look, who was coming from a bad team for a relatively decent price that you acquired him for. Do you see any similarities behind the moves that helped power the Mavs to a finals run last year to this trade for the Suns?
I won't say that it powered the Mavericks to a finals run. That would be Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving.
That's fair.
I would say on the margins that he helped to shrink what was a disadvantage for them.
Which is what we're talking about here then, right?
And that's what I'm getting to. Nick Richards can help with that. Daniel Gafford is a better basketball player. Daniel Gafford has a little bit more hit to his game in terms of how the game feels, his presence on the court. But because the Suns did not have anything in the realm of Nick Richards in terms of having that type of impact, it can feel that way for the Suns. That's not a guarantee, though, because he doesn't have playoff experience, and they're still trying to dig themselves out of a hole that the Mavericks were not in when they got Daniel Gafford last season. So I don't want to put these – this is an example of the type of expectations that I'm just not going to put on a player that has never been in a winning situation in his career. Like, this is going to be a complete different change for Nick Richards.
To be fair, he's joining an under 500 team.
Yes, but
he might feel right at home.
Yes, this is very true. But with the firepower that he has around and how he can just simply be himself, he doesn't have to overtask himself. He can just be himself, set great screens, roll hard to the basket. Naturally, gravity will come with that. Being complementary to everything that the Suns need offensively, but adding value to what they are trying to start to turn a corner and doing defensively is what I feel like will really help them.
What encourages me, too, is we saw the other night that final, 5-minute stretch that Oso Ighodaro had those 8 points, had a huge impact on getting that win, right? Well, now you can go and have two guys that can do that. They can play in the dunker spot, can roll, can set smart screens, and actually give you that kind of energy, which hopefully means more stretches like that, more runs like that, where KD, who played a big part in Oso getting those baskets, now has another guy, as does Booker, and the whole crew that can roll and can play smart like that. That's an exciting part for me as well. We've said it all along. Does not fix everything. It does not magically turn them into Cinderella at the ball, but it sure puts them in a better spot than they were a day ago.
Like when you're putting together a puzzle, I don't know the last time that either of you two did a puzzle. It's not a common occurrence for me.
I'm a 70-year-old man, so.
Well, right. But if you think back to your puzzle solving days, sometimes you're just kind of stuck on like the same piece and you're trying to figure it out. And then you finally find one small piece of a massive puzzle and you click that one in. And for some reason, as soon as you put that piece in, everything just makes sense, right? Everything falls into place. Now, I'm not saying it's that simple for the Suns, but theoretically, with all of the things that we've said the Phoenix Suns are missing, Nick Richards addresses a vast majority of those problems. Not in a way that's dominant, not in a way that's prime Shaq, right? Or what Mark Williams looked like against the Suns earlier this week. But he does do that. And that could be the small puzzle piece that unlocks all the other little puzzle pieces that you so desperately need. Are you holding on to Tyus Jones? Well, if you are, you need a lob threat and somebody who could help counter defensively when teams attack him. Nick Richards, not doing that like the best in the league, but can do that theoretically better than anybody else on this roster right now. It's not about like selling this trade like the Suns are fixed, but they had very simple problems. Mm-hmm. And sometimes simple problems, Steven, get helped with a simple solution. And Nick Richards is a rather simple solution.
Yeah, it's simple. And I think that also in addition to everything that you were just saying, as a question for both of y'all, how are y'all going to feel when it's eventually going to get to, in their present construct, Oso Ighodaro and Nick Richards swapping in and out for each other compared to a little bit of Mason Plumlee here, before the past 2 weeks, a little bit of Yusuf Nurkic there, and also, being the most impactful and effective center with that group.
Yeah, I think that it obviously makes you younger more athletic, like we talked about. And we know that this team has struggled immensely with energy and in that. And I think that having a rotation of those two guys is going to go a long way to impacting that and helping that. Again, I still don't think it's a perfect rotation. I mean, Nick Richards can rebound. I think he has had 7 games of 10 plus rebounds or more this year. He's averaging 7.5, so it should help on that front. So I think they're different enough that it gives you a slightly different look. Oso's passing and headiness is huge for him. I think Nick is probably a little bit more athletic and aggressive there. So I think it's a nice pairing. I still think it'll probably be a 3-headed monster, whether Plumlee winds up being that guy, 2.5-headed monster, whatever the case may be. Whether it be Plumlee or they add somebody else that can stretch the floor on a value contract, like we've talked about, Duop Reith. But I think this is a much better rotation that makes a lot more sense than where you've been.
Yeah. And I think that's the key in all of it. It just makes their center group make a little bit more sense. You get all of the finesse that Oso Ighodaro brings, and that's not your only punch that you're throwing in a viable sense, because now you have someone that can go out there and have some hit to the style of play that they bring. And I think that's something that's going to be implored of them, to like legitimately go out and make that impact felt in just the contact dynamics of the game. Boxing out, setting screens, offensive rebounding at times potentially. And obviously more than anything else, the dunks. I think the dunks are going to truly be a breath of fresh air for the Suns team that have seen missed layup after attempt, after inopportune layup attempt, after air ball on the layup attempt, that are going to be going down with contact. And he's probably going to navigate himself to the free throw line a little bit more frequently because of the context of play that he's going to be operating in, complementary to the Suns' top-level talents.
Chat, we got good vibes here. We're going to read your super chats. If you want your super chat read, any price, we're going to read them. I promise we will. It's an exciting time. We got to get into it. Other great questions in the chat as well. We're going to answer all of those plus so much more right after our first break. Sometimes you need to celebrate, sometimes you need to relax. Today, maybe you need to do both. And of course, Pure Edibles has you covered with all of that. And of course, you can find Pure Edibles at over 130 dispensaries statewide. Pure Gummies are not just coated in sugar. Pure is an actual candy company, and they make fantastic products that not just taste good, but they make you feel good. They're not just going to tell you, oh, it's an indica, oh, it's a sativa, oh, it's a hybrid. No, on their tins, they tell you what the effect is, whether it's to relax or to sleep. 2 different types of indica for that, whether it's to uplift or to relax. 2 different types of sativas for that. There are hybrids, different types. They have you covered. It is the best tasting edible that I have ever had, and that's because, like I said before, they are a candy company. They use CBN, CBG, CBD, and of course, THC as well. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries in Arizona and tell them that Nick Richards sent you.
Yeah, they have TLC too. They put tender love and care in it. You know who also does? Our friends over at Circle K. You know what I like to do when I want to celebrate? Fill my gas tank. That's right, because I might go drive around honking my horn and screaming that there's a center finally on the Suns roster and he's not a rookie, all right? And our friends over at Circle K will help you do it on the cheap. Become part of the inner circle today. You're going to save 25 cents on your first 5 fill-ups. Then you're going to save 3 cents moving forward until you hit that ESPO level. Then you're getting 25 cents off per gallon. It is just that easy. So why not become a member of the inner circle today? Save money on gas, save money on snacks. Get in there and get some beer if you're into celebrating that way. Get excited, because at Circle K, you can join the inner circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
We appreciate all of you in the chat, people listening on audio as well, or if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact. I know we have a lot of people who can't catch it live. We still love every single one of you. Make sure you hit that like button, whether you're here right now in this moment, whether you're revisiting it a day from now, a year from now, whatever it is. Make sure you hit that like button. Let's get to the super chat that we do have. Thank you, RMD992. 2 Canadian Buckaroos. Thank you. Says, how many minutes a night is Big Dick Nick Richards going to get? We're allowed to say that, right? We discussed this. Did we not?
But that's not, he typed the abbreviation for it. You could have
Paid money for it.
I'd imagine he's 20 to 25 minimum.
Maybe more?
I mean, it depends on if you're going to go small against certain teams, and so some of those minutes will go to Royce or KD at center. Are you going to try to keep Plumlee in there for a few minutes? I don't know. Bud's got to figure out all that, but he's certainly going to get more than he was getting in Charlotte because they have a massive need at the position.
Yeah, I mean, it's needless to say the Suns have been desperate for a bigger, more athletic, younger center to put in their rotation. They went and acquired that with Nick Richards. I think he plays probably about 25 in his first couple of weeks. He has to get integrated into a system and start building chemistry. It's hard to do both of those things while you're you just started a 5-game road trip last night. So first question is, when is he going to play? Is he going to be back for tomorrow's game, or will he not play until the weekend? That's the first question.
My guess is they're like, get your ass here now, right?
Yeah,
my guess is they just kidnapped him after the last game.
You have to go through all of the moving process with the transaction and getting all of the physical squared away. So how quickly that stuff happens, I think it's a little close, but I think that he's going to come in. He's going to probably play 25. He probably doesn't start the first game, but I think he starts by the end of this month.
I think it's a fly here, turn your head and cough, now get in the lineup.
I think so too.
I think that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be, you're going to live out of a hotel room for a little while. We'll help you figure it out as we go along kind of thing.
I'm not that move. I'm talking about just the transaction part, going through the physicals and all of the NBA protocol things.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, yes, he will play right away.
Is it something going to be like, we waived the physical, let's go?
Get over here.
Can you get a rebound? Physical done.
If Isbia could pay to get that thing expedited like FedEx, you better believe
No, I'm sure he will. I think, whether he plays like 30 minutes a night right away or if he works up, if he plays 15 to 20 minutes a night, they're going to have to rely on him heavily. And even those 15 to 20 minutes can be impactful. I think it's going to be more than that. I think he's going to be thrown into the fire pretty quickly because in my estimation, I know Nick Richards is not a massive needle mover. I know he's not a dominant force and presence in this league. I do feel like his impact will be felt immediately by this team. And I think that the stars that are on the court, I think the role players that are on the court are going to enjoy playing with him. And that is going to lead to more minutes. We do have another super chat from Makai, $4.99. Thank you, Makai. Consistent with the super chats. Says, still need 2 more trades before I feel good. Don't know who or what. We will get into some more trades later. We've all been in the spot where we said a Nick Richards trade, maybe even just a Jimmy Butler trade if you don't shore up your center position isn't enough to fix this team. So we are going to explore that later, plus some other trade rumors. There was a...
Can I say one thing on that? I feel better than I felt yesterday.
Yes.
But I was at a point where I was ready to cling on to any life raft that was thrown my way in the cesspool of what we've been dealing with. So that's part of where my excitement is hey, you did something. We're in this to try to fix this, right?
Yeah.
Like there's not a chance that you're just going to stand there and hope it all just gets better.
No.
Right? Which I think there could have been some fear that if this went along much further, that may have actually been the course of action that was considered. I'm excited because something happened. That's not that it fixes everything. It's not that that's the only thing I want to happen, but I'm excited because something did.
I think that dude asked a good question. I don't know if we touched on too much, which was, what does Nick Richards look like defensively?
Mm-hmm.
I'll let y'all start unless y'all want me to kick it off.
No, I
go.
I mean, I just feel like purely his wingspan and his size as a rim protector and as somebody who could play a little bit more and drop, and your perimeter defense can gamble a little bit more, feeling safer that he does have the athleticism. I wouldn't say his instincts are like top notch, best shot blocker, in the league, but physically he's smart enough and able to protect the rim a lot better, I think, than any option the Suns currently have. I think he walks into being the best rim protector on this team.
Espo?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a low bar, though.
It's true, though. It's still true.
I mean, Josh Okogie holding up a broom would have probably been the best rim protector on the roster right now, too. Like, I think it's a low floor, but I think he's definitely better than what you have. And that's not to say Oso can't eventually get there, but I don't think he is that guy. So you've definitely upgraded in that sense. That's the thing. You're grading on a massive, not you, the all of us, are grading on a massive curve because you were so far in the hole at that position. So again, Average rim protection is better than where you've been. Average rebounding is better than where you've been. I think Nick Richards is better than an average rebounder, but the point is he's good, and that's good enough right now. It's Mr. I don't need Mr. Forever. I need Mr. Right now, okay?
Yeah.
That's a wild.
We were searching, swiping right and left on the center app, and you got one that's good enough for right now. I don't need Mr. Right. I mean, I need Mr. Right now is where I'm at.
Well, as always, it's hard to follow you up, but Nick is to Eric's point a bigger body, more athletic center than this team had. I think there's versatility that you can get out of him that you probably weren't able to get in a sustained manner out of Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee, though he does defend in similar contexts that they were comfortable in, drop coverage. I think he can vary with the depths of his drop. He could be more active in a shorter drop and not always have to rely on him being 2 feet in the paint always in his drop coverage. And that's going to hit different for a guard like, let's say they're going against the Grizzlies and it's John Morant coming off a screen, where you would want your big to be more comfortable being closer to the level, but not quite fully full out hedging and blitzing. I think that's where Nick Richards, as a proposition or as a prospect, can help this team. And little things like that within the things that they were already doing, just making them feel different. And obviously, like I said in the open, having a bigger body to do those things.
So you mentioned versatility. From your perspective, one of the Suns' biggest defensive problems outside of the paint and rebounding has been movement shooters, open threes. Is there any way that Nick Richards, his length, his athleticism, and maybe his ability to close out can help you slightly on those margins as well?
No, because that's perimeter oriented. If you're talking about the type of shooters that have been plaguing this team, they haven't really went against too many stretch fives. It's been more so the fours, the threes, the twos, and especially the ones. That's on the other 4 players on the court, but they should be able to be more comfortable defending in those contexts, knowing that Nick can cover up for mistakes that might happen behind their back or going backdoor towards the rim because of the prowess that he has as a rim protector.
I think that's the cascading ripple effect. Even if he doesn't directly affect something, Espo, his presence is enough to maybe, in a roundabout way, make an impact.
Well, like we've talked about, defense is a lot of effort and a lot of trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Suns team had much trust in Yusuf Nurkic anymore back there. I think it was waning with Mason Plumlee.
Definitely.
So even just upping that trust factor, like you were talking about, knowing the guy behind you is doing the right thing, is going to help. Yeah, I think just those little things start to add up for this group. And I think, again, Nick Richards is going to do some of those little things that you weren't getting before from the spot.
And I do think that there's an argument, like we mentioned, how low the bar is. It's the same thing when the rookies come in and they make like a regular exciting play, like Ryan Dunn dunks the ball, Oso Ighodaro blocks a shot. Something that if you have players who do it consistently, it gets you hyped, but you don't Leo DiCaprio point at your TV like, oh my gosh, right?
Oh, I did every time Oso dunked from the dunker spot. I was like, oh my God, it's a regular dunk.
And see, like you felt that way. And I guarantee you, KD, when he made the pass to Oso in the dunker spot, felt that way. The first time that Tyus Jones gambles a little bit on defense and Nick Richards is there to clean it up for him, and now people aren't talking as much about Tyus Jones being, attacked on defense, that's going to help him mentally, right? That's going to help whoever's being your perimeter defender because, while Josh Okogie wasn't in your rotation heavily, he was one of your better perimeter defenders. Ryan Dunn's going to be able to gamble more. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal are going to be able to gamble more. Royce and Grayson, like they are going to be put in better defensive positions and have a peace of mind that's going to affect all parts of their games because you're not running down after scoring a bucket thinking to yourself, if they call pick and roll right now with our 5-man, that's an easy look, really, no matter which way they go, if they pop or if they drive, right? That is stuff that starts to pile up. And that dude, you mentioned his defensive question. I think that dude is just on one tonight. Had a question says, how does the scheme of offense change with 2 athletic centers? Will we see more pick and roll, more lobs, more off-ball screening actions, etc.? Let's answer that question and continue to unpack the Phoenix Suns trading Josh Okogie and 3 second-round picks to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Nick Richards and 1 second-round pick coming back. We're going to keep breaking it down, look ahead to other potential moves and some rumors that are out there right now after our second break. Well, Colt Cannabis is here for your celebratory celebration tonight, which is the best type of celebration. Your celebratory
Light 'em if you
ones.
got 'em.
Light them if you got them. And trust me, Colt Cannabis, Steven, they got them. The best premium flower in the valley, and you don't have to pay premium bucks. And right now, it just got so much easier with our friends over at Colt Cannabis, because they are now available at all True Leaf locations, including their new one that just opened up last week. Magic Marker is back. Steven's been asking for it. I've been asking for it. Espo's been asking for it.
Crayola. It's the good kind.
It's the good kind. Colt Cannabis truly cares about their product. They're not just here to sell you weed and make money. They want you to have the best experience. Premium flower at a good price all around Phoenix. Get over to trueleaf.com. Find your local shop or place an order. Look them dead in the eyes and say, Greg Esposito sent me.
And they'll say, who the hell is that?
And you'll say, you know, and then they'll know.
He told me to light him if I got him. You know what? You were talking about gambling on defense. If you don't like to gamble on defense, but you like to gamble in real life, I got a place for you to go. Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That's right. And right now, you can get your engines revving like I've had all show. I'm back, baby. And you can try to win a $350,000 Lamborghini Lux. And here's how to win it. It's really easy. You play to win every Friday in January and February. You're going to have a chance to win cash prizes, free bonus plays, or qualifying for the grand prize final drawing for that beautiful, beautiful car. So join us every Friday night at 7 p.m. for exciting drawings at all of their locations. Join them for the grand finale on Saturday, March 1st at Wild Horse Pass, where one lucky winner is going to drive away in a Lamborghini. It's like getting a new center, but better. All right. So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathila.com for more details, or check out the link in the description below.
Chat, I wouldn't trade any of you for anybody.
I would trade all of you for Jimmy Butler or a chance at a title.
And that's why we're just different. King Nacho, I wouldn't trade you. King Nacho says, what just happened? We just got fleeced out of 3 seconds.
2 seconds if you thought we got fleeced there, Nacho. They got one back.
Joe with a 499 super chat. Thank you, Joe, for dropping that super chat. If you guys want your super chat read, go ahead and drop them in here. Any price will do. Says NBA players are too good today. Even players that help around the margins make a big difference now. Richards helps more than I think people believe. Let's go off that and that dude's question, Steven. As our schematics guy here, the guy who really knows ball, what different looks... It's okay. I'm including ourselves in this. What different looks do the Suns now have in their arsenal with an offense still predicated around Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal?
I'm talking about specifically
on offense.
I mean, it doesn't change much on the offensive end. The ball's still going to be in the players' hands that it's been in. You just add another player that can, like I mentioned earlier, play in a complementary way to what they do. If teams are trying to load the gaps against Kevin Durant on his isolation touches, Nick Richards can be in the dunker spot opposite of him, but because he has a vertical spacing threat to him, if that's a guard, let's just say it's Bradley Beal that's in the opposite corner of a Durant isolation touch. If that guard that's guarding Bradley Beal is the low man and Nick Richards is right next to him, that's an automatic advantage for you that Durant can simply just pass it over the top, put it around the square, and Nick Richards could either catch it and get it or catch it and finish it. That's not a threat that the Suns have had since DeAndre Ayton and JaVale McGee, even more so than that. So that hits different naturally for them being able to play more above the rim. But I think in pick and roll, something that's underrated with Nick Richards, he has very good hands. I think that's something that the Suns haven't seen from any of their centers outside of Jock Landale over the last handful of seasons. Being able to catch those pocket passes comfortably while on the move as a moving target, and then being able to finish at the basket with relative efficiency, I think is going to be a positive hit for this team, again, on the margins.
How much do you think it'll open up things for Tyus, too? Because it does give him a rim roller that he can work with, in those pick and roll situations. Him in particular, because it seemed like he's kind of been lost lately. Does that change anything from that dynamic for you?
Yeah, because he hasn't had a natural pick and roll partner that can put pressure on the rim with his roll, that's kind of put a little bit more pressure on him to score and pick and roll. Even if it is with the space that he's been conceded, defenders that are defending him in drop coverage are now going to have to be more on their toes than when it was Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee, because more often than not, it's going to be happening below the rim. Now, if you add in a dynamic of, okay, Tyus has this floater that I have to get some semblance of a contest up, but also I have to worry about this 7-footer that can jump above me behind my head, that now gives you some advantage to play with in addition to the space that's already baked into the offensive process for the Suns. So there's some things, again, these are all marginal, but because they should hit on efficiency, should help they take this team to the levels that they should be operating at consistently.
So 1 or 2 games over 500.
Not just 1 or 2. And it's all a matter of if it hits on the defensive end more than anything.
I mean, there is a chance that this doesn't work out the way we expect it to. It's always on the table, unfortunately. We're just going to have to wait and see. Arton with a 99-cent super chat, but no text. Thank you, Arton. If you do have a chat, I'm going to keep my eye out for it. You don't have to do another super chat. We will read it. A lot of questions in the chat about Nurk. I think we've talked about Nick on the court enough. I know we've covered him a lot, and I'm sure we're going to continue to break him down right here on PHNX Suns going forward.
Maybe even tomorrow.
But let's talk about the waterfall effect, right? You now have on your roster Nick Richards, Oso Ighodaro, Mason Plumlee, and yes, he might not be with the team, Espo, but you still have Jusuf Nurkic. Is there any place for Nurkic on this team anymore?
Well, I'll say this. He probably feels a little bit more sick today than he did yesterday because now the path to actually if he had any hope of being part of this is slim to none. Now, I think that was a move that made that very clear. Now, I don't know what you do because if you can't find somebody to take him, I highly doubt you're going to eat that money. Where if you decided to walk away from Mason on a vet minimum, you could easily probably trade him or cut him and be what it is. But I don't think we're seeing Jusuf Nurkic step on the court again unless there's some kind of insane emergency that arises that they have to break glass for.
Yeah, I said this before when we were talking about Nurkic. Once the sickness was surfaced on the injury report over the weekend, I don't know if he was going to play another minute for the Suns.
Yeah.
It felt like his presence on the court wasn't receptive to his teammates in the way that it needed to, from that center position especially, for them to be successful. And it felt like, especially stemming from why he was out 2 weeks ago with the suspension and everything, and how no one really had we got your back because you made the right decision type response to it.
Because he didn't.
Actually, we see the other side of the situation too. And you never want to hear that.
And on top of all of that, he had just came back from injury. They were in a lull for the season, and they were trying to get their season back in alignment with where they desire to be. So you take away your starting center for reasons that are not injuries or, anything that was just. It felt like that was a bookmark moment for him in this team with the Suns.
It's clear the Suns' highest paid center is their worst center right now. Yeah. He's their worst center on roster. And there are a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people who are saying, like, obviously we don't care about Nurk anymore, but there are other people who are like, listen, Nurk has had 20 rebound games, had a 30 rebound game. Last night against the Hawks, you could, in theory, see a world where Jusuf Nurkic helped. The truth is that even with the skills that he has as a professional basketball player, all of the things that you mentioned, Steven, that led into that, the context of his emotions, of his standing with the team, his effort to actually do the positives that he can bring on a consistent basis, it just wasn't there. It's not there like Mason, who certainly has his faults, but I don't think his effort is nearly as questionable as it comes from Jusuf Nurkic. Oso, who has his faults as far as size goes and his touch around the rim, but still has clear positives and hustle and energy and effort. And now you have Nick Richards, who we just spent 40 minutes talking about his fit with this team and how he can help. You're also living in a modern NBA where Kevin Durant can play the 5 if you're going small. You might make a trade for Duop Breath, which Gerald wrote about on GoPHNX.com, right? You might still have more big options that you haven't really talked about yet. I don't think Nurk plays another minute for this team. I don't know if Nurk rejoins the team, but I don't think he's going to get traded. I think this is going to be one of those weird situations where you just say, we can just separate, we'll pay your money, and we'll revisit this in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't think he plays, but Jusuf Nurkic is a passable basketball player if you're talking rebounds. The problem isn't that. The problem is up here, right? In terms of the way he reacted to certain things, his approach to things, the fact that he moped when things weren't going well, that his teammates had lost their faith in him. That it doesn't matter how good you are. If you get to that point, I mean, it becomes where you can't fix it. I mean, I think we're actually seeing that in Miami, where teammates are basically turning on Jimmy Butler going, I actually think we're better because we're not having distractions right now. That's the point of no return. I mean, if you don't, even in this kind of a job, if I don't trust the two of you, or if you don't trust me at some point, it becomes next to impossible to actually accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. The human element gets forgotten a lot in this game, and in trying to devise a championship roster. And this, I think, is as much about the human element as it is about the basketball element. And the basketball element hasn't been all that great. So,
to Joe Super Chat's point, every player in the modern NBA is one of the best basketball players that has ever lived, right? Not just currently. If you have made it to the NBA, you're going to have some sort of skills. People are talking about his ability to set good screens in there. I agree. He probably sets the best screens on this team, right? I don't know where Nick Richards falls in as much with that because I haven't watched as much of Nick Richards.
He would be second. He's probably a step behind Nurkic, maybe a half step behind Nurkic on that.
But what happens after the screen is just as important as what kind of screen is set. Yusuf Nurkic can quote unquote shoot the three ball. He has attempted threes. He has hit threes. He cannot
attempt
shoot
the three ball.
No, the thing there is, does the defense respect it? And to that point, how many times did we see somebody urgently closing out on Nurkic to shoot his threes? They were all wide open. If not, the defender turned, like, this isn't disrespectful to him, but they were turning their backs at him. They were saying, if you're shooting shots, and that means that Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker are not, that's an automatic win, even if it does go in, because we don't think you can do it again.
The defender felt boxing out air was more important than guarding Yusuf Nurkic at the three-point line. By the way, I'm glad to see that Dan Gilbert's screen name is CK in the chat. Good to have him here. So,
do we have any thoughts about Mason Plumlee? Because I do think if the Suns were to cut, you're not going to cut Yusuf Nurkic in his contract, right? If they do maybe go get a Duop Reith, or frankly, they look at their roster right now and they say, we shouldn't be housing this many centers. Is there a world where Mason Plumlee is bought out from this team?
No, I think you would probably deal him for in a second for like a Duop Reith, and that team can cut him or do whatever they want, but you're going to want it as a smaller salary match, likely, if you're going to get rid of him. I don't see them just, unless you get to the point where nobody in the league wants anything to do with him, and then you're sitting there and you go, well, I don't know that I need this many bigs, but I think you're now making some calls on him going, he's a minimum. You want me to send him in that second, and I'll take your minimum guy? Because that's the only way you're going to get it done.
I think there might be some value to him being now in a trio of centers where each center brings something positive in a different way than the other does. There's no redundancy. I think that's something that you spoke to a lot earlier this season. And I think there was some value to that, and that value obviously increasingly grew as we got to this point in the season now. Nick Richards is different from Oso Ighodaro, and both of those two are different from Mason Plumlee. Because you have that difference, you can address games and what the game is demanding from your center group in a different way. Because you don't have one specific piece that you are pushing all of your chips on the table for to be your hub for everything that you want.
Yeah.
It gives you multiple answers to the test.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what are you able to do with Nurk too, because
for sure.
there's a lot.
I don't know
of
if I want to house
still.
5 centers potentially if you trade Bol for Duop Reith 6. Like as far as like asset allocation, I know maybe you don't have a choice, but like that's pretty ridiculous.
That's
in the modern
why I
NBA.
think if you're trading for another center and a low cost center, it's probably Plumlee that is the guy that goes out in that case.
I also, with Plumlee as well, he's the only center that would be playing, you're taking Nurkic out of it, that has played playoff basketball.
And that's the other thing that I'm speaking to, because the experience part.
Right.
We need to dive into it crazy, but one center has a ton of experience and brings different things than the other two do. The other two bring other things and versatility and youthful exuberance, but they don't have the experience part there.
Well, and Mason seems like the kind of guy that wouldn't mind mentoring too, right? And being okay with that. So maybe that's a path as well. That's the problem. There's a lot of things that could still happen here. And I think if I'm the Suns, most of those doors are still open with the exception of I'm blowing it all up.
Yeah, Black Mason with the $1 super chat. No text. If you want to drop a chat or a question in there, I will read that. You don't have to send another super chat. I mean, that's his name, so I'm calling him his name. I want to do a poll in the chat. We're going to come back from this break. Grade the Nick Richards trade. Let's lay it all out again. Nick Richards in 1 second-round pick coming back to Phoenix. Josh Okogie, 3 second-round picks going out to Charlotte. We're going to read your grades. We're going to give our grades. We're going to have an appreciation time for Josh Okogie. And we're going to get into more of your questions in the chat, all after our final break.
Is this me, huh?
It's you, yeah, Bet365.
That's right. We are going to do Bet365 right now because they are the best in the business. Just because two of us on this set suck at betting.
One way more than the other.
Doesn't mean that you have to. You can enjoy the moment, whatever it is, because it's never ordinary at Bet365. 90 million users worldwide, can't be wrong. And that's why you should join Bet365 as well. Their early payouts in basketball, if your team goes up 20 points and you got them to win, even if it's part of a parlay, you get it automatically. Even if they blow that lead, you're going to be a winner there. And right now, when you open an account, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 when you sign up. Using that promo code PHNX365, deposit 10 and place a bet of 5 or more to get $150 in free bonus bets guaranteed. Must be 21 or over, physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know who has a gambling problem wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
Over 800 of you in here right now. What if I could give each of you $200 for free? Let that sink in a little bit. Well, I can't do that, but our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union can, and that is because there is no better place to do your banking than DFCU. I could tell you through personal experience, through generations of my family, my grandparents and my parents to me, we have all used Desert Financial back when they had a different name. They've been serving the Valley for over 84 years, Arizona's largest, most trusted local credit union, and is dedicated to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community. You want to know how dedicated they are, Espo?
So dedicated.
They're going to give the community $200 for free. All you have to do when you open a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses.
$200 online. All right.
Get started by visiting desertfinancial.com.
Desertfinancial.com/200. 200.
Dagoon, Lucas, Perns, Cutbad, my dad, MSD, T, Killer X,
MSD,
Justin, Brosif, Brian, all of you in the chat. We love all of you. Thank you for hitting that like button. We thank you for being here. We thank all of you listening on audio after the fact. Those of you on YouTube after the fact, you can all hit that like button and leave 5-star reviews. I do want to get into Brian's comment, which I thought was really interesting. Says Richards will also give Oso a taste of a more modern day NBA center in every practice as well. Will help with his development. That is one of the little things that you don't really think about when you talk about a team being so bad at one specific thing that when you're practicing, you don't have the personnel to simulate being good at that, you know?
I mean, it depends on what context he's speaking to, because if you're talking about a modern sense, that would mean Nick is shooting threes.
Right.
And there's no center that's going to give either one of those two a look at that.
Modern, younger athleticism, maybe.
The
younger athletic look.
Part, yeah, for sure. But if he's talking modern in terms of age, then yeah, for sure. Definitely. You can't even replicate those two things. So yes, there's a ton of value to that.
I love that you're looking at me when you're like, if you're talking modern in terms of age, we ain't talking about you, Espo.
Oh, Espo.
That's not what I said.
I'm providing my aged wisdom to both of you youngins now.
Well, let's provide it a little bit more, Espo. A, B, C, D, or lower, what grade would you give the Nick Richards trade for the Phoenix Suns?
B-.
Why?
You've helped raise the floor of your center rotation. I love Josh Okogie and the energy he brought and the defensive side, but it was at a position that you just have too many guys at. Would I have preferred to only trade 1 second-round pick? You know, I know they technically traded 3 and got 1 back, so a net trade of 2 second-round picks, sure, but at this point, it's second-round picks. You know, if having that extra second round pick's going to change your fortunes, I don't believe it. So you got what you needed, and I give it a B- right now. Could move up into that B+ range depending on how he plays.
I gave it a B just because it's not just getting him; it's the fact that he gives you something that you didn't have that preceded him in this current construct. So because of that and the breath of fresh air that comes with everything that he has already shown to be able to provide, even in a non-winning context, that a team that doesn't really have expectations or direction, I think that the value for that just automatically makes it a B for me.
It's a dogfight in the chat right now, winning 41% say B. That went up to 42%. 36% say A. 14% say C. 8% say D. I do see some very negative comments in the chat. Keep letting us know why you feel like it is that low, because I see a lot of this trade sucks, not a lot of why.
How many times have we let Nacho voting in that?
Probably does have burners, to be honest with you. For me, surprise, surprise, the really emotional, loud one is going to lean more into the moment. I'm going to go with an A-. Right. Honestly, I was thinking about A, not because Nick Richards is an A player, but because he solves your problems in, again, this is all theoretical. We haven't seen him play in multiple different ways. I really see a lot of upside with this trade, the emotional side of it, the locker room side of it, and for the fans too. Like, there's so many of us in here right now just for this show and that are going to be coming back later and listening to this later, who are going to go into the next set of games with a renewed sense of excitement. Right? Because there is an unknown now. We felt like we walked into every game and we knew what was going to happen. One of your scoring stars was probably going to have a good night. Maybe if you're lucky, multiple of them will. The team will have great moments, and then they'll have moments where they get outsized, out-physicaled, out-hustled, where they feel like they're not connected. And that gets tiring after some time. And Gerald said it last night on the postgame show. You're hoping for a ripple effect like you see in football when you bring in a new young quarterback, right? Even if that player's not perfect, that can galvanize a locker room, it can galvanize a fan base, and that can have real on-the-field or now on-court impact. I'm an idealist. I definitely lean more into the optimist side of things. I think that this is going to fix a lot, and I also think that you're laying the groundwork for another trade. So I'm going to go with A-. At the end of the day, we're going to go B, I think, is the more consensus grade.
I'm seeing a lot of overpay. Really? 2 second-round picks and a guy that wasn't really in your rotation is an overpay? Like, come on, guys. I get that draft capital is important in a lot of people's minds in today's NBA. And I know one of the comments was, well, the Lakers got Dorian Finney-Smith for about the same thing. Okay, well, you didn't pull that trigger. You got a guy that can help you at a position that was a complete and utter negative. We saw it last night. It's a sieve for this team. Now they've got a guy that can actually play that spot and help you out, and you paid 2 second-round picks and a guy that really was not going to play for you.
Not in the playoffs.
My thing was, so even if we do go the overpay route, one thing that the entire league knew coming into this season is that the Suns were going to be in the market for a center. If you're in a transaction scenario, somebody knows that you need something and that you really don't have any other avenues to go about getting it from elsewhere, are they going to keep that price as low as or at the stock level? Or are they going to play hardball and raise that to get as much as they can in exchange? I feel like it's as simple as that. Like, it's not complex. They knew you needed a center. You didn't have many options that you could actually go about that you really liked. Knew you liked Nick Richards, so we're going to up it. Know y'all have 3 second-round picks. Can we get all 3 of those?
And give you one back.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you essentially
obviously it's
traded,
later, but yes.
You essentially it netted out to you gave up 2 second-round picks.
Yep.
And the thing that drives me nuts is you signed Josh Okogie to an $8 million deal, not because Josh Okogie was worth that on the market,
exactly.
So you could use him for exactly this reason.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're gonna appreciate Josh Okogie. We're not done here, folks. We have more to get into. Bobby Marks did tweet out the details on the second-round picks. Honestly, it makes me like this trade even more. So going to Charlotte is a 2026 Denver second-round pick, a 2031 Denver second-round pick, and then Phoenix's 2031 second-round pick. Coming back to Phoenix is Denver's 2025 second-round pick. So
you're in the draft this year.
So you are actually accelerating and adding a draft asset currently to this team this year. You saw, as much as we want to belittle second round picks, and maybe you can use this as a counter argument for sending stuff out there. What is Oso Ighodaro doing right now?
That's fair.
Right? Like, getting a second round pick for this year with where you are in the second apron and where you might be if you make a trade for Jimmy Butler and decide to pay and extend him too is much more important than a 2026 or 2031 seconds.
Well, for all you know, if in other deals you're talking about, they could be saying we want draft capital that's sooner, that's not current. 2031.
Exactly.
So
either way, you're helping yourself sooner than these other draft picks would.
I'm not going to sit there and, you're in win now mode. That's what today told you again. You're not blowing it up. So this is a move that tries to put you in a better position. And I'm willing to bet it's the best you were going to do for that grouping of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Richards started 9 games this season, averaged 11.3 points, 10.2 rebounds, 1.7 blocks on a much worse team with much worse gravity in the Charlotte Hornets. He averaged a double-double and almost 2 blocks per game while starting the season. In 9 games, sure. But let's say it's relatively similar for the Suns, and you give up Josh Okogie, who even last night, maybe the trade was related to that, but didn't play, has been in and out of the rotation, offensively probably would not be bet on in the playoffs unless it's break glass in case of emergency, and just swapped 3 second-round picks. That's really the price you're paying, and getting a sooner pick back. For what they could do and where they were at, I want to say no faults in this move because Nick is not a surefire player who is clearly going to work out like in every single positive way we bring there, but vastly, vastly positive in my mind. He lacks critical information. Great name. Says, so do you guys think the Suns will just try to ride out the rest of the year with the current big 3 and new center rotation? Are they still going to go for Butler?
No, you're shopping still.
I think you're still trying to make a move.
You can't look at this and go, Nick Richards fixes everything like we've talked about. He doesn't. It's part of what I assume has to be a larger plan you're attempting to execute. And I imagine that Jimmy Butler is that guy that you have circled based on everything that we've heard and their desire to get him. Now, will that be enough to fix it? I don't know, but I think that's what they're going to try to do here and try to keep that window open as long as they can.
Yeah, I don't think they're done. I think they'll probably be one of the more busy front offices through not just the trade deadline, but through the buyout market as well. Through the transactions that they're trying to make, maybe clearing a roster spot to add another potential center that might be let go from another team. As transactions happen and as teams go over the roster maximization number through the different transactions they go on and whatnot. So I don't think they're done yet in any capacity. And I feel like they're still going to try to find an avenue to add a different center to this group than what's already on the roster right now.
We've always said, and we'll continue to harp on this team was not one move away from being where they said and their plan was to be, which is at the top of the West, competing for an NBA championship. That was the chat that Arton, who dropped a blank super chat earlier, wanted to ask, is do you think the Suns are still trying to win a title? Unequivocally, yes. This team is all in, Espo. All in.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's the point in making this move if you weren't going to remain in that mode, right? If they weren't in that mode, they would have already had serious conversations about moving Kevin Durant, about considering moving Devin Booker, as much as that's the reality. If you want to blow it up, that's the path you have to go down. If you want to play lottery roulette, that's the path you have to go down. Like that's what it is. And I don't think that they're willing to do that yet. Like, I mean, that's the reality here. They want to see if there is another move to retool it. I've said, if you were even going to consider blowing it up, you don't do it till the off season, right? Yeah. Like, what's the point? And if you can get Jimmy Butler and you roll that dice, then I think that's at least something of interest to try, because your biggest faults, no heart, no hustle. A guy that is willing to try on defense. If you trade Bradley Beal and figure
Jimmy
out how
Butler
to get Jimmy Butler as a part of a 3-team deal, I think on paper, as we know, that doesn't always work. You're better than you were.
If you are watching on TV, we appreciate you so much. Just always remember the fun continues over at GoPHNX.com, not just with our Sun show, but Cardinals, ASU, Diamondbacks is back, Wildcats. We have you covered over at GoPHNX.com. Of course, also where Gerald has an article out on Duop Reith. They're certainly going to continue to try and find ways to get better because a lot of people in the chat are talking about, what do you mean compete for a championship? They're the 11th seed in the West. They're under 500. Yes, they are in that situation. Most teams in this situation, you would not consider, quote unquote, trying to compete for a championship. That's why you're in the world you are right now, Steven, where you just made a trade. You did give up a lot of your current draft capital, the very small amount you had left, and you don't do that unless you're trying to pull this out of the gutter.
Yeah, I think that's the point of letting you know what direction they're trying to go. If they were entertaining calls on Kevin Durant, if they were entertaining calls on, in the worst case scenario, Devin Booker, that's a clear sign of where they're trying to go. But because they go and add something on the periphery that should help them now and is on a team-friendly contract and should help them going forward that they can develop, that's what they're working towards. And also, like we talked about yesterday at Sparring, like you've tapped the sign on consistently all season long. Matt Ishbia spending the most money on this current roster in the history of the NBA. That's not to just throw it out the window. He's all in, and he's very much looking for a return on investment in terms of the team playing to the level that they should be.
Well, yeah, and look, am I saying that they're going to win a title? No. But I'm saying they're attempting to. They're going to try. And right now, you're sitting outside of the play-in, right? You're at 11. But you're still only 5 games back of the 4 seed in the Denver Nuggets. One run puts you right back into that 6th spot in the Western Conference. And all of a sudden, people are like, oh, well, maybe the Suns got something going. And I know we're a far cry from it. And you guys saw me down in the dumps 2 nights ago. I mean, I'm not selling myself on Nick Richards saved our soul, right? But I think if you get a guy like a Jimmy Butler, you change the vibes, and this team has enough talent, I think you can get to a place where you start to see things again. Last night, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant had 31 and 35 points. Like, we're not talking about both of those guys fell off a freaking cliff now. There's just something attitude-wise that's going on that you're trying to purge right now. And I think another big move, if you get rid of Bradley Beal and you bring in somebody, doesn't even have to be Jimmy Butler. Maybe it's some of the guys up in Chicago, Alonzo Ball and Vucevic. I don't know. I haven't looked at
not
money.
For Vucevic
but if you start bringing in other pieces that can go around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, you still have a chance because they're Kevin Durant and Devin Booker.
It's what we've been saying. It's why it was so frustrating when it wasn't working. Was because you have your foundational pieces that this team should be built around, right? You have the star power. You have the offensive firepower to win a championship. I've never doubted that, even when they've looked disconnected, which is a problem in its own right. On paper, you have the talent to win a championship. And it brings me back to the puzzle analogy that I brought earlier, where you get stuck on one piece for a long time and you feel so far behind. And then as soon as you get that one pesky piece in, everything just falls into place. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I certainly think it's possible. Also, you just want to be playing your best basketball around playoff time. A Miami Heat team that was in the play-in made it to the finals because they played their hottest, their best basketball in the postseason. You don't want to bet on that, on a one win and you're in, going as the lowest seed, but it is technically possible. It's been done.
Look, I will take. Yeah, it's been done. Jimmy Butler did it.
Even without Jimmy Butler.
with not a great roster around him. Yeah. All right? Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not. If you really want to go down the let's accumulate a bunch of first-round draft picks and sit around and wait for that, I got something to tell you. But everybody wants to point at Oklahoma City, right? Yeah. Everybody wants to point there and Houston and go, this is the path. You know how many teams tried that and failed miserably? Have been stuck in basketball hell for a decade or more because they thought that was the key to doing it? I'm not buying into that, right? I'm not buying into the hopium of draft picks and that's going to fix it. I want an owner that's going to be aggressive and always going for guys that are talented, that try to go out there and actually make something happen. And if you want to sit there and watch draft pick ping pong balls, I don't think you're a basketball fan. I actually think you're a fan of the drama and a fan of the hope of the world that things might magically turn around. Well, guess what? They got the number 1 pick, and it didn't turn around because they didn't have the front office to do it. All right? So, don't act like draft magic is all that they need. Go ask Philly about how draft magic worked out for him. The process worked out for him. Don't sit here and try to sell me on your damn hopium that draft picks and reacquiring your own draft pick from Houston is somehow going to magically make it better or more fun to be a Suns fan. Because I watched freaking, Dragan Bender. I watched Marquise Chris. I watched Josh, whatever
Jackson.
his face was.
Alex
Josh,
Len.
I'm not showing up to the place that the fans are, so I'm going to, let the GM buy beer. I don't want to go back there, all right? I've seen it, and I don't believe that if you don't, I know if you don't have the right front office, you ain't changing it. You're just making it worse for your fan base. Pay the money. Go after it. Swing big and continue to do that because that's what fans really want. They want to feel like there's an opportunity. Not that I'm hoping for fate to make ping pong balls go my way.
I don't like everything you said, yes, but also Kevin Durant just got done speaking about that exact topic. I don't think a win-now player, especially an all-time great like Kevin Durant, I can't speak for him, but I can speak on what I think he would believe. He doesn't want to play for a team where the owner is, I don't know, I want to win, but only to a certain extent. It's either you want to win or you don't. And I don't think he would want to be playing for a franchise with an owner that's not working aggressively to make and maximize this window for his opportunity to win.
Everybody loves Sam Presti. How many rings that guy have? And you could argue maybe they're going to get there, but how long has Sam Presti been building this?
Well,
they already had 3 of the most talented guys ever drafted in that franchise history. You know how many rings they got? 0.
The Raiders going to be doing that real soon in the next handful of years. So.
They are not I wouldn't even say they're the blueprint. I think they're the exception. I think if you're trying to emulate an OKC style rebuild, I just don't think you're going to be able to do it. That is a 1-of-1 rebuild with the amount of picks, the amount of talent, with the trades that they made. You can't just go in and be like, oh, just do what OKC does. You can't say what the Spurs. Oh, we'll just do what the Spurs did, and we'll suck for a little bit, and then we'll get Victor freaking Wembanyama. It's not guaranteed.
Yeah, or you get Anthony Bennett, or you get Andre Bargnani,
or you get a good talent,
or you get DeAndre Ayton,
or Zion Williamson, who's talented but doesn't play, and the Pelicans are where the Pelicans are right now, right? You can be put in a lot of bad situations. Nothing's guaranteed. You can be a 500 team and you can make a win now trade and you can have the highest payroll in the league and it could not work out. Or it could. You could tank and you can hit on the next generational player in the teens, like you can draft Devin Booker, or you can draft DeAndre Ayton #1 overall, or you can get Cam Johnson later in the first round. There's everything's on the table, and I think right now what we're looking at here is a team that legitimately could win a championship. And maybe not in this current iteration, maybe they would still need to make moves, but a team that has a win now front office, a team that has multiple superstars in Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, a destination for free agents, the ability to shell out the money when they're winning and when things are going right, a fan base that can match any other in the NBA. Trust me, I was at those playoff games. You have the formula here. So if you're going to have an owner who says, I'm going to go all in and do it, you can't be half in, half out. And right now you're at 500, but you're all the way in to trying to win no matter what your results are. If you want to tank, you need to go all out. And I don't think people really want to have 15, 12 wins again, because you're going to start looking back and being like, damn, do you remember when we had Kevin freaking Durant on our basketball team? And you're going to miss him.
I want to address our old friend Saul saying, oh, so you trust James Jones to make this. Obviously, you haven't tuned in recently because I've made it very clear I don't trust James Jones to make any moves, but I'm not exactly convinced that he has his hands on the wheel. But even if you're going to blow it up, I don't want James Jones making the draft picks. I've seen that script before. And to Perfect Remedy, who said, oh, the ring argument isn't a good one. Then what are we doing this for? If it's not to win a ring, what do I care? That's the whole point. If I'm not winning a ring, I haven't accomplished what I'm supposed to. And Sam Presti don't have that ring yet.
Okay, that was good. I think we all.
I needed to get that out. I don't want to see damn draft picks.
Well,
I lived that life.
we're gonna get to a Devin
Been
Booker
on those
rumor.
mean streets.
It's gonna be a long
I
edition.
watched my friends die out there. All right.
Okay. All right. Left hand telling you to calm down. We're gonna have a long PHNX on today because we still have some more to get into. I know Steven had to go to the bathroom before we went live, and I'm sorry.
No.
Why don't we go to the one shot? I'll talk for 20 minutes while you pee.
Oh, that's not why you're going?
No. Why? That was unnecessary.
Sorry. I thought that's why you were complaining.
No.
With the left hand? Is that what
Well,
you're complaining?
that too, man. Stop it with that.
What?
That was so unnecessary.
My bad, Steven.
You could have gone to any other thing, and that's just.
That's what I'm saying. You're human,
Steven,
man.
I went 18 minutes. I went 18 minutes ranting. I don't
That was
remember.
fine.
We could have went one shot, you know. So.
No, I'm not tripping over that. That transition needs a
A
lot
little
of
too
work.
inside baseball here. Let's get this back on
I
track.
don't think that was baseball, but all right.
Apologies to Steven. Love you all in the chat.
Apologize to Espo.
Sorry, Espo. Why am I apologizing to Espo?
Well, for a
'Cause you
lot of
should.
reasons.
No, give me a reason why I need to apologize to Espo.
I
Just
don't
move
need
on
no
to
apology.
move on to the next.
Yeah, it's
thing,
because you
all
don't
right?
have one. I know that
No.
trick. Jimmy Butler. This was what we were supposed to lead the show off with today. There's more news out there. Chris Haynes in his classic Haynes briefs.
Okay, one of the best and worst names I've ever
Absolutely.
heard for something.
The brand is
Haynes
evolving.
briefs.
And the brand is evolving. You see the graphics and everything
Oh,
you had
yeah.
today?
I do, and he's got the video games in the back corner. Yeah, I'm loving the setup. I just, oh, this is my
see it.
favorite.
You see it.
It's crispy Haynes. Yummy. That's when we drop some crispy Haynes news. It's crispy Haynes.
This is the news that he did drop. Miami Heat considering changing the designation to Jimmy Butler suspension from conduct detrimental to the team to refusal to provide services. That change would double the fine. Right now, the designation is the same, Steven, but according to #Haynes briefs, it is a fluid situation.
It is. And I feel like there's, like we talked about the last 3 episodes we've done, it's a leverage play. It's 2 Bulls going back and forth. They're hitting heads. The suspension comes. Jimmy does what he does on social media at the coffee shop or whatever it was. It's just so many different strays being thrown at one another. And eventually this rock fight is going to end in, somebody's going to have to get what they want. I think eventually it's going to end up in favor of Jimmy Butler. It might not necessarily be the one place that he's been communicating that he wants to end up at. He might have to open up the Rolodex and allow for negotiations to other spots, but he's going to eventually win it. This is what happens when you have an older person that's been in the NBA for decades upon decades, when the owners were the ones that were in control, and that very same owner goes and gets LeBron James, who exercised his freedom and liberation as the superstar, and all of the ripple effect that's come from that. Other superstars acknowledging their star power and how they can use that to leverage their way to locations they actually want to be at, external of Damian Lillard in this situation. But you see the leverage play is ultimately going to go in favor of Jimmy Butler.
I just want to say I hate when there's a fluid situation in my Haynes briefs. All right, that is what you said.
I wish
look,
there was a
if-
screenshot for that.
Oh, my God.
Look,
Oh my God.
Look, I think you're 100% right. They're in a standoff right now, and that's what it comes down to with Jimmy Butler and Miami. And at some point, I don't think Jimmy's gonna break. What is okay? So they're like, well, we're gonna keep you out without pay, and Jimmy's like, well, I'm willing to come back. The Players Association's now gonna sue you. Good luck with that, right?
Mhm.
So. I don't think Jimmy. I think Jimmy will try to call their bluff if they try to pull that. But in the end, what are they really holding on to right now? Right?
Pride.
Does Pat Riley really think some magic deal is going to fall out of the sky that isn't already being offered if he waits and Jimmy picks up his option to try to trade him? No, there's no magic deal that's going to come that's any better. Jimmy Butler's 35. He's pushing 36, right? He's at a public falling out with you. You're not going to get dollar for dollar here. You're going to get cents on the dollar. So you got to find the right deal. And the only person or the only group that sounds motivated is the Suns, all right? And there's been reports that they have third teams that are willing to get involved. And is this complex? Sure. But the first domino that's got to fall is Pat Riley's got to put his pride aside and say, you know what? If I want to give this group and next year's group a chance, I got to figure out some move to make.
this is all ego more than it is about money. You know, like when you were going to do something and then somebody goes and tells you to do it, and like you're still gonna do it, but you're gonna be a little bit more upset about it because like, I was going to like,
the
don't have
energy
to
is
tell
gonna
me.
be way different.
Yeah, you don't gotta tell me to do that. I was gonna handle that, right? It's the same thing where I'm sure if these teams approached, Pat Riley and maybe the Jimmy Butler situation was more internal, and he was approached with these deals, I think Jimmy Butler would be off the heat. I think it'd be done. But Jimmy and Pat want to go head to head, and that dude, this might be, you're on a heater right now. Really good comments today from that dude.
Game.
Says, quote unquote, refusing to provide services. This is really who y'all want in the locker room?
Okay. First off, they sent him away, right? They suspended him. He's saying he's ready to come back Thursday. So again, it's subterfuge season. The Heat are going to put a lot of stuff out there to try to sully him in a way that doesn't hurt his value, but makes them look like they're on the right side. Because again, Pat Riley's ego. Pat Riley wants to look like he comes out on top in any beef with a player like this, right? Then Jimmy Butler obviously is putting things out from his side. And again, the truth's probably somewhere in the middle, right? But we've seen it. Jimmy Butler, much like Chris Paul, and I'm not saying they're the same guy, but he works for a short time in your locker room, and then maybe the personality grades on you. Well, guess what? The Suns only have a short time in this window. So you get 2 years and you go for it with a Jimmy Butler, that's probably about the shelf life that you have to worry. Just like with Chris Paul, you had that good run, and then it seemed like maybe he was grading a little bit on people, and that was part of why he wasn't around anymore. Like that's the reality of it. Do I question, could it be a problem? Yeah, but right now, what chemistry are you really blowing up in that locker room? There ain't any right now, so you might as well see if that could actually jumpstart it, right? And if it doesn't, I actually think you might be in a better place anyways to make a trade because you're not dealing with a no trade clause. You're dealing with with a guy that is either not signed after this year if you don't get done with a contract extension right away, or that has an easier contract to move than Bradley Beal. So in the end, I don't think you're losing anything other than potentially that 2031 pick. And again, I don't care about some 8th grader right now. I really don't. And the Suns have made it pretty clear, neither do they.
And my thing with the entire Butler thing, as far as him coming into the Suns context, I think the intangibles are loud. They could use someone that's going to say the loud things out loud and is never going to walk on eggshells or bite their tongue. I think that would be a positive balance to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker's just general personalities that we see. I think that would be positive for them in a way that's conducive to winning. I think that also the biggest thing within all of it, I know people get caught up in the Jimmy Butler's getting paid like a superstar thing and all of that. As far as wings go, Jimmy's 6'7". I know that the Suns have a bunch of players that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", but he plays a lot bigger than his 6'7" frame suggests. And I think the versatility that comes with that and his non-negotiables in terms of the parameters that he plays his game on, he's going to do all of those things that are necessarily never going to show up on the box score. And the way that those things can kind of have an impact on everybody else's succession. Like, you have someone like him that takes everything that Royce O'Neal does, everything that Josh Okogie brought in many different respects, everything that any of the other wings, Ryan Dunn, that you might want to mention. He combines all of those, and you can expect for him to have that impact consistently. And that's going to hit for this roster if they were able to bring him into their context.
Can I reframe this argument a little bit for some people too? Yeah. Because right now, if you're on the blow it up side and don't go after Jimmy Butler, you know what your future looks like in all likelihood. You've traded Kevin Durant, you've traded Devin Booker, and you got Bradley Beal and a bunch of young guys trying to figure things out and draft picks. Is that what you want the next 2 years of Suns basketball on the outside shot? That, in 2 or 3 years, you might hit some draft success. So really you're looking 4, 5, 6 years from where you can actually compete if everything goes the right way. Like, I don't want to play that game.
And I think it's totally fair that you don't want to. I don't want to, but I respect the people who do. There is there is some joy in the idea of like potential, right? And it's why people love Ryan Dunn. It's why people like Oso. And people talk about trusting James Jones. James Jones does not have the worst track record in the world when it comes to draft. Now, obviously, Tyrese Halliburton was a big miss, right? But
he was part of the DeAndre Ayton pick.
And he was part of the DeAndre Ayton pick, right? Also part of the Mikal Bridges pick, also part of the Cam Johnson pick. Jalen Smith, while probably got picked too high, did turn into an NBA player. Ty Jerome is the six man of the year candidate on the Cavs. Yeah, no, but you still hit Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro, should be until today with the trade starting for the Phoenix Suns, right? Like Toumani Camara is one of the most coveted players in Portland. There is a legitimate track record for this front office. Now, when it comes to constructing a team, I think that is where there are more concerns. There is a lot more Butler news that we're going to talk about. I don't think that conversation's ending anytime soon. There was a new conversation-ish that was brought up today we're going to touch on really quickly to round this out. If you're still here, which so many of you are, make sure you hit that like button and you are subscribed right here to PHNX Sports. But per Tim McMahon of ESPN, the Houston Rockets have made it known that they are fans of Devin Booker. Espo, how nice of them to finally join the party.
Okay. The Houston Rockets are becoming the drunk friend at the NBA party that's willing to flirt with somebody in a relationship because they think they're younger and hotter. Like, they stay away from Devin Booker, all right? You're not getting him. I don't care if you got a crush on him. He's Phoenix's for as long as they want to be in a relationship with him. Go buzz off and find somebody else, all right? Of course they like that. Yeah. And the Suns like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic. And, LeBron James, even though he's older, is still hot to him. Like, why wouldn't they like these guys? Yeah, sure. Good, Houston. You like them. That means you actually kind of understand who are good basketball players. Congratulations. Breaking
news. Apparently, all 30 NBA teams, Steven, are reportedly fans of Devin Booker.
That's crazy.
Could you imagine?
I mean, someone that's been all NBA a handful of times, a perennial all-star. Olympian, gold medalist. Like, I would never have guessed that. I'm glad they made that public knowledge, though, today.
I'm really glad that the Houston Rockets are fans of Devin Booker.
I probably shouldn't be mad at the Houston Rockets because that was probably said as an aside. Like, yeah, of course, if Devin Booker were ever to become available, we'd be interested. And it gets thrown out there as like this tidbit and it starts an internet storm. But yeah, you can flirt all you want. You ain't getting my man. That's what we're trying to tell you.
If they really wanted to have some motion, they should say that they're fans of Bradley Beal.
Yeah. There you
Y'all
go.
really want attention. That's what type of
change the vibes.
Yeah. We a fan of draft picks for Bradley Beal. How do you feel, Houston? Huh?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Houston's a fan of Devin Booker, and they should be making moves like this. If you're in Houston's position, this is the type of stuff that should be leaking. It's not going to happen.
And I will say, though, that is a really, really good team.
Yeah.
In Houston.
Devin Booker would make them instant title contenders.
Well, I think they're already on the cusp of that. And their
that's what I'm saying, cusp of it. If you trade for Devin Booker, you're launched into it.
But also, too, these young teams, like, it's also which we're learning, chemistry is so important here.
Mm-hmm.
So if they make some kind of big move, do they really screw up their chemistry? I think that's the same thing OKC's facing. They've got the assets to make some kind of splashy move, but do you mess with what's working, right? The 2021 Suns didn't get to the finals because they had the most talent in the Western Conference, right? They got there because of chemistry. And if you want to make an argument about the Kevin Durant deal like people want to, your argument could be you left some of the human element out of it, right? And that's where I think the Houstons, the OKCs are hesitant to go big game hunting right now.
I think that makes sense. Let's wrap it up here. Let's be informative. I want to put together, just because it's January 15th, I had Noah and all his wonderful talents put together a list of all the NBA players that are trade eligible. Now, of course, we made this before the trade went down this afternoon. Josh Okogie is on the list under the Phoenix Suns. But these are other trade eligible players just for you as an NBA fan to be aware of. Nicholas Claxton, Miles Bridges, Patrick Williams, Obi Toppin, Max Christie, Scottie Pippen Jr., Haywood Highsmith, OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, Goga Batadze, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, KJ Martin, Tyrese Maxey, Josh Okogie, Malik Monk, Emmanuel Quickley, and Johnny Juzang. Not saying the Suns are going to target or trade for any of those players, but just be a knowledgeable NBA fan. These are all the players that now could be moved, and who knows, maybe the Suns are involved. Any final thoughts about the Nick Richards trade, about what could come next, about the state of the Phoenix Suns before we wrap up an extra long edition of the PHNX Suns show?
I mean, I still feel like they're still at least one move away. I said they needed 2 in my opinion. I think this one helps for sure. But they still need to make those changes internally to where we talked about it last night post-game. Even if you do bring Nick Richards in, and he's going up against Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu from last night, 1 versus 1, he might do his job, but who else is going to help him be successful at what he does in terms of his impact? Who's else is going to go and start crashing the glass? And to your point, maybe having a new piece in there that's consistently doing their job might rally the troops and say, okay, now that we can trust him to do his job, maybe I'm a little bit more enthused to do my job. I think Gerald might have mentioned something along the lines of that last night as well. Mm-hmm. Again, they're doing the things they need to do to get into the space that they were operating in earlier in a more sustainable manner. But now you have to see the on-court efforts match it in a sustained manner for me.
I say if you're interested in, joining a franchise opportunity for Big Face Coffee, you might have the opportunity here in Phoenix real soon, because I think Jimmy Butler is going to put on that Suns uniform here before February 6th and that trade deadline, because you committed today. Today was the we're playing, we're in. We're not going to cash in our chips. So I think you can go after Jimmy Butler as much as you can.
Yeah, the Suns.
I agree on the Jimmy Butler part. I don't think he ends up coming into the Suns.
Yeah, I think if he gets moved, he's coming here. I do think there's a chance he doesn't get moved. I think we might see a "what the hell are you doing" Pat Riley moment where they hold on to him, he opts out, and they lose him for nothing just because he wants to be, just egotistical and prideful. I totally see that being a reality here.
If I'm the Suns, I'm exploring every opportunity then outside of Jimmy Butler on the Bradley Beal front and trying to figure out anything I can.
And to that point, if it's not Bradley Beal that you're trading because you still have the no trade clause thing, one more name that I've always kind of still been interested in, Deni Avdija. Yeah. You got to obviously call Portland back like, hey, y'all, I know you just got done talking the summer before last, but, what's up there? There's a couple different avenues they could go about trying to attain them, and ultimately it takes 2 to tango. But I think Deni is a piece because I still feel like they need another wing with this group. If it's not Jimmy, I think Deni helps with that. He's 6'9", does everything on both ends of the court. I think Dorian Finney-Smith was another piece. Obviously, he just got traded, but that type of realm of players, a bigger wing that can help add versatility to the group.
The Suns were multiple moves away. They made a move. I think they made the right move, and that should be encouraging to the team, to the fans, and to, of course, all of us here. If you are still watching, which there are so many of you live, and I'm sure many of you stuck around on audio and coming back to this YouTube video later, we would really genuinely appreciate you leaving a like on here. I know it's free. I know it seems like a small thing, but it does help us out so much, just like subscribing to PHNX Sports. We're on the march to 40K. You can be a part of that. We appreciate you guys joining in here. If you want to follow along for more, we have pregame and post-game show. Somebody commented, what happens if we lose to the Wizards tomorrow? Well, we'll be here talking about it. If Nick Richards plays or if he doesn't. Pregame show 30 minutes before tip-off. Post-game show right after the final buzzer. If you want to go over to gophnx.com right now, Gerald does have an article up detailing Duop Reith and what a stretch big could add to this team. I think Duop is definitely still on the table as a player the Suns could make a move for coming up to the trade deadline in a couple of weeks, so you want to definitely check that out. Steven also has some great stuff dropping on the website later today as well. Again, that's gophnx.com. Become a diehard. Join our inner circle and talk Suns hoops with us in our Discord. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. Shout out Noah behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. Again, it's the PH because he balances us out. And then, of course, you can follow Espo at Espo.
Can I get the one shot, Noah, real quick? I got to give a shout out to my guy, Suns Uni Tracker, who hooked me up with this Al McCoy hat honoring the legend. So shout out to you. Ahoy, ahoy.
We all silly like the mayor.